Boxing truth here. Let me talk a little bit about Jermall Charlo and what's the deal for his next move in his career. It's been a not so great 2017 for him. Only one fight, coming off the great performance over Julian Williams, knocking his ass out, exposing him. And then freaking Haymon doesn't bank on that momentum, and he doesn't fight for almost 8 months. And he fights on the undercard and fights a cripple to make matters worse. And he's been installed as #1 contender for WBC for knocking out a cripple. Obviously, Golovkin's team feel that he don't deserve a shot at Golovkin, that he needs to fight another top contender, and they're not going to take that fight until WBC mandates that fight. So that's the situation when it comes to Triple G eventually fighting Charlo. If Charlo's going to get that fight, he has to wait till WBC mandates it. But I'm looking at Jermall, his situation, and he really should consider leaving out Haymon. I mean, what does Haymon have to offer him at middleweight? Nothing. It's one of the divisions that he has no control over. It's a division, actually, that is probably the most lucrative in terms of what fights you can get. Money fights, big fights, significant fights, world title fights. But it's all under one platform. It's all being controlled by HBO. You want the big fights? Golovkin and Canelo are the biggest names, and they're affiliated with HBO. So Jermall should really consider leaving out Haymon and signing with HBO. I mean, all the big dogs are on HBO in the middleweight division. You got Saunders and Lemieux fighting in December on HBO. Canelo and Golovkin are on HBO. Most likely, if they rematch, it's going to be on HBO, pay-per-view. You got Danny Jacobs on HBO. You got Demetrius Andrade on HBO. So all these top fights that Jermall could get are on the other side. And what the hell does Haymon have to offer Jermall? He hasn't banked on his momentum. He's been keeping him on the shelf. Pretty sad 2017. He fights on an undercard and beats up a cripple for a #1 contender slot. It's not really a great year for him. So 2017 just pretty much went down the drain. He's most likely not going to fight until next year. So his brother gets 2 fights, the lesser of the 2 Charlos, and Charlo sits on the shelf because Haymon can't get him no significant fights. And the WBC has ordered an interim title shot while he waits for Canelo and Golovkin to settle their business, if they settle their business in a rematch. So Charlo is most likely going to fight a PBC-controlled fighter within Haymon's stable under the top 15 rankings WBC. Haymon has a lot of influence on WBC. WBC will do what Haymon tells him to do. Put in there a guy that he controls, and he'll make an in-house fight between Jermall Charlo and a PBC fighter that's rated within the top 15 for the interim title shot within the WBC. Most likely will be Hugo Centeno as Jermall's next opponent. I mean, that's what I see. That's what I think. He's one of the fighters controlled by Haymon, so that's a very strong possibility that will be Jermall's next fight. But Jermall, he needs to... He's got to get a sit down with Haymon and say, yo, what's the deal, man? Where's the direction going? Where's my career going? What do you got lined up for me after this Centeno fight? What if you can't get the Golovkin fight from me? What if you can't get the Canelo fight from me? Are you going to let me go to HBO and fight these cats? Or do I have to sign with a promoter? Do I have to leave your ass in order to get these fights? Put all out there on the table. See what's up. Because Jermall is in a division where he can really make himself into a big star. All he needs is an opportunity to get these fights. I think he's a quality fighter. I think he's a worthy contender in the middleweight division. Unfortunately, he couldn't prove it in his last fight because he fought a cripple. But I think he's a worthy contender, and I would love to see Jermall Charlo get a shot at Danny Jacobs, get a shot at Demetrius Andrade, get a shot at the winner of Lemieux Saunders, and eventually fight the winner of Golovkin and Canelo, or even fight both of those guys, no matter who's the winner or who's the loser. The point is, I want to see Jermall Charlo in these fights, and him being positioned as a Haymon fighter on Showtime, where he's only fighting once a year, and not getting the fights that he needs, that he really needs to really propel himself into a bigger star. Then, you know, what's the point of him staying with Haymon and wait for a title shot with Golovkin that may not come? Golovkin could retire. He could move up and wait. He could decide to fight somebody else. So why sit and wait when he can, when he could make some moves and perhaps go across the street and sign with a promoter that's affiliated with HBO? I mean, that's the move for Jermall Charlo. It's the writing's on the wall. He should sign with HBO. That's where all the fights are at. That's where all the big lucrative fights are at. That's where the fights that presents world title shots are at. What's he gonna do staying with Haymon on the other side when Haymon has nothing to offer him? He can't even offer him the Danny Jacobs fight because Danny Jacobs bounced to HBO. I think Jermall Charlo should follow suit with what Jacobs did. He doesn't have to sign with Matchroom or anything, but he should really consider, very strongly consider, signing a deal with HBO. But y'all let me know what y'all think. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.